Motivation has waned. It's not New Year's anymore, baby. Maybe the herb garden that you were so excited about is withering. Maybe the enemies to lovers fantasy book that you were planning to write has been put on the back burner. This video is all about how to get excited again, how to get motivated again, because it's totally possible to get back to that place. Step number 1, reset your relationship. If you are someone who sees your herb garden withering, you see your vision board gathering dust, and then you start to think things like, why am I like this? Or just a sense of guilt and pressure, you need to reset your relationship with these things, which is why step 1 of getting motivated and excited again is all about resetting how you feel, taking off the guilt, taking off the pressure. And I have the exact exercise that I like to do. And this exercise feels like magic. When I do it, it has an immediate effect. I use it whenever I've left something a little too long or just haven't made the progress I would like, and I'm noticing, oh, I'm beating myself up about that a bit. So for example, you're standing there and you're looking at your herb garden that's withering and you're feeling bad. You're thinking, ugh, like I had these plans at the start of the year, what happened? In that moment, think of someone you know who you love and imagine they are in your place. And I mean literally close your eyes down, put yourself in the picture. You see them standing, looking at their withering herb garden and beating themselves up a little. And notice how surprised you are that you don't judge them at all, even though just a second ago you were judging yourself so harshly. And then you can actually put yourself in the picture if you want to. You can talk to this person and be like, a million people have actually killed herb gardens. Like, this is no big deal. This is not the end of the world. You're gonna get through this. It sounds a little insane, but it works. And I know that this sounds a lot like the advice, talk to yourself in the same way that you would talk to a friend, but it's the imagination part that makes it different. Your brain speaks imagination, it speaks emotion. And by doing this as an imagination exercise, you're almost talking in your brain's language. And the idea is to trigger a feeling of surprise of, wait, how come I'm judging myself so harshly when I imagine someone else doing this, I just don't have that same reaction. This works too well. I use it whenever I'm struggling with any kind of self-forgiveness, not just in relation to productivity or goals, but self-forgiveness period. And let's move on to step 2 of how to get excited and motivated when it comes to your goals again, which is to have a revelation. A realization, one of those moments where you're like, I get it. I'm seeing things differently. So if you're watching this video, there's probably something at the start of the year that you said you wanted to do that for whatever reason, you're just not feeling as excited about. Maybe you haven't touched it in a few weeks, a few months. Triggering a revelation is about figuring out what part of you is pushing on the brakes. So there's part of you that's pushing on the accelerator that's like, yes, let's go for it. And then there is another part of you that's pushing on the brakes and saying, ugh, I don't want this. Jonathan Haidt talks about the elephant and the rider, and that's kind of what's happening here. The rider is the more logical part of you. It's like, yeah, no, I want this thriving herb garden. I want this book written. The elephant is the emotional part of you, and it is the one that's pushing its little foot on the brakes. It's scared, it's unsure, it's not 100% convinced. It has thoughts, feelings, and worries that probably have been unaddressed by you. You can't get where you want to go if you have buy-in from your rider, but you don't have buy-in from your elephant, because your elephant is just too big. You gotta have buy-in from both. And to do that, I have an exercise. It's one of my favorite exercises. I call it the yes but method. So to use this method, you're writing down the phrase, yes, I want blank, the thing that you want. So thriving herb garden book, but ... Fill in the blanks. And anything that you write should be coming from the feelings that arise. So we're not logicking this. We're talking to your elephant. We want emotion here. Tap into those emotions in your body and go, yes, I want blah, 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 and let those emotions fill in the blank. And this is where you start to uncover your fears. You start to uncover these secret little worries that are maybe hiding in the background that are stopping you from moving forward, that are keeping your elephant on the brake. And when you really uncover these, that's when you get that little zing, the little revelation that'll get you feeling really motivated, because it feels like a light bulb moment. And light bulb moments, we know, do come with a zing of genuine energy in your body. That's how the brain is designed. And that's when you can get your elephant and your rider on the same page, which leads us to the next step. Find your secret projects. Something no one talks about enough is not so much like the goals that go to the wayside, it's the goals that end up replacing them that you don't even know exist. If you've fallen off your vision board, if you've fallen off your list of goals, there's a hot chance that you've gone and collected other projects, other little secret projects, undeclared projects. And they're the things that you're focusing on instead of the stuff that's on your vision board. When you declare all of these open loops, all of these secret projects, and actively decide, like make a genuine choice to put certain ones to the side, you will get a zing of motivation and energy unlike anything that you've ever felt. A little exaggeration, but not that much. There's just something about deciding and declaring what you will and won't focus on that clears your mental energy so that you can get excited again about the goals that you set at the start of the year. Here are some questions to ask yourself if you want to unveil your secret projects and figure out what you have been putting your attention towards that isn't the stuff you said you would. What's stressing me out right now? What problems exist in my life right now? And what is taking up my mental space? And this is also a really beautiful realization because you'll write a bunch of stuff down and then immediately you'll go, oh, like no wonder I haven't really been putting my attention towards A, B, and Z, whatever it feels like you've put to the wayside. The next step is all about warming yourself up to your list of goals or your vision board. In my old job, I used to create online learning projects that were objectively really boring. So workplace conduct e-learning, security and fraud e-learning, something no one really wants to do. And you would think that I would be super bored by these topics, and I would be at the start. And then I would start researching, and then I would start learning about these topics, and I would spend a bunch of time on these particular topics. And by the end of it, I would be citing security facts to people around me and be like, oh my gosh, like, do we all know that fraud is a really slippery slope? You don't need to start with the interest, the desire, and the motivation. More often, it's turned around. You start with none of that, then you invest the time, and then you get the desire, the interest, and the motivation, which is why the next step is all about having a date night with your goals. A date night, date day, it doesn't really matter. You can certainly light some candles, put on some music, and make it a little bit fancy. But this is just a low pressure way for you to reconnect with those goals that you set, with that vision board. It may mean that you're adjusting things. Maybe what you cared about then just doesn't reflect what you care about now. Maybe you were in a really different headspace at the start of the year. Just spend some time reconnecting with all these things that you set out for yourself to do this year. I really think of your relationship with a goal as similar to your relationship with a person. You can reconnect with a person by doing a little date night with them, by spending some time with them. And the more quality time you spend, the more connected you can feel, and the more excited and motivated you will become. The next step to getting excited and motivated about your goals again is the slippery slope effect. Say what you want about David Ramsey, and I have very little say because I actually don't know anything about him. I just know that he's a bit of a controversial figure to some people. However, one thing that he talks about is the debt snowball. The debt snowball is basically do minimum repayments on everything, but pay off your smallest debt first. Doesn't matter which one has the highest interest, focus on your littlest debts and get them paid off. And then move to the next smallest debt and keep on doing that until you are debt free. And I'm imagining hundreds and thousands of people have used this strategy to help them to become debt free. It's really worked for people. And that's because it's a slippery slope. It doesn't make logical sense. Of course, it makes more sense to put more payments towards the loan with the biggest interest, but it makes a lot of emotional sense. And this is something that Chip and Dan Heath talk about in their book Switch. It's a really good book. When you experience these really big wins up front, it just becomes a lot easier to keep it going because you gain a lot of momentum from the get-go. Which is why if you really want to touch back in with those feelings of excitement towards your goals, you want to start with creating very visible, tangible wins. If your goal, for example, was get my entire house feeling decluttered, fresh, clean and airy this year, but that's really not been happening. Pick one small but very visible space to declutter, something that you get a sense of deep satisfaction from doing, even if it's not the most logical place to start. So instead of asking yourself, how do I get myself going with this? How do I get myself back on track? Ask yourself, what would feel most satisfying to have done? What would be most visible and noticeable in my life if I got it done now? Even if it's not the most logical next step. Step number 6, environment design version 2. If you're anything like me, you designed your environment at the start of the year. I have a whole video on that to make achieving your goals a little easier. So maybe you put up a chore chart on the wall, or maybe you created a little home for your phone to live in at night so that you weren't scrolling in bed. It's likely that some of the environment stuff that you did worked really well, and some of it just didn't seem to stick. Maybe the Etsy chore chart just didn't seem to do it for you, or the little home for your phone wasn't the right fit. One really easy way to get yourself excited and motivated again is to look at those little environmental tweaks and then categorize them as version 1. That was your V1 experiment. You were testing things out, seeing what worked for you. Now you're moving on to V2. So that didn't work. Firstly, why not? What did you hate about it? Why isn't it doing it for you? And secondly, what's V2 gonna look like? If you liked this video and you are kind of in a mindset where you're like, oh, I'd like to tap back into that New Year's energy, I have a whole playlist of all of my 2026 planning style videos. I'll have that linked on the screen as well as down below. I appreciate you so much, and I'll see you soon.